What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, my guy, back in the building, you feel me? Now, today, we have another reaction video. Today, we're going to look at the Detroit Pistons. How good were the bad boy Pistons really? All I know is that you had Isaiah Thomas, Dennis Rodman, Bill Laimbeer, Joe Dumars, I'm trying to think who else was on that team. Last name is Sally. I forgot his name. Last name is Sally. But that's all I know. But it was a solid team, great defense, dirty plays. We're going to see how it goes into. If you guys enjoy what I'm doing, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Recommend some videos you guys want me to see in the future. And let's get to it, man.
They're the greatest villains in NBA history. They revolutionized how to play defense and beat Jordan in the playoffs 3 times. They had the best rebounder in NBA history, the dirtiest player in NBA history, and their leader was one of the most cunning point guards ever. But were they as evil as their nickname suggested? And how good were the bad boy Pistons actually? In 1980, the Pistons lost 66 games, the worst record in franchise history, and in 1981, they followed it with another 60-loss season. The Pistons had the worst attendance in the NBA, with an average of 5,000 spectators, so their Silverdome Stadium, with a capacity of 82,000, felt like a ghost town. But the worst part was that no player wanted to play for the Pistons, and nobody wanted to live in crime-infested Detroit. And yet, there was hope on the horizon, because in the 1981 draft, the Pistons had the second pick, and they wanted to draft Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah was a college superstar who had just won an NCAA title with the Hoops.
Before we get into Isaiah Thomas, I'm gonna get crucified in the comment section for this one, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Isaiah Thomas is highly underrated and doesn't get enough flowers for how good he is. Like, when people talk about the greatest point guards of all time, they never talk about Isaiah Thomas. Put aside what he said about Michael Jordan and what he says about everything nowadays, his actual play, he's actually one of the greatest point guards that ever played this game. You know what I'm saying? Whoever you got. Michael Jordan said it himself. He respects his game. He has Magic Johnson #1 as the best point guard, and right behind him is Isaiah Thomas. I think we need to give him his flowers a little bit more, despite what he be saying on the media.
Under the great Bobby Knight, but there was a problem. Isaiah wanted to get drafted by his hometown Bulls. He didn't want to live in Detroit and was doing everything in his power to sabotage his pre-draft interview.
The things he taught me while I was there, the first thing was you.
But where the Dallas Mavericks, who had the #1 pick, got bamboozled by Thomas and his deceiving tactics, the Pistons GM, Jack McCluskey, saw right through Isaiah's BS.
Now imagine if Isaiah Thomas got drafted to the Bulls. And then, I forgot what year he got drafted, but in 1984, they got Michael Jordan. That would have been crazy.
And Jack McCloskey was asking me all these questions, and I was intentionally answering every one of them wrong. And finally, at the end, he looked at me and goes, I know what you're doing. He said, but I'm going to draft you at #2 if you're there. And you're going to love it here.
6'1", 180-pound Isaiah Thomas of the University of Indiana.
McCluskey became the Pistons general manager in 1979, and because of his ability to judge talent and lots of trades, he soon got nicknamed Trader Jack. McCluskey said that Isaiah would end up with the Pistons no matter how he behaved in the interview, because Jack sensed something in the young Isaiah, and he was instantly proven right.
Comes in the lane. Got it! Isaiah to the hoop. He hits it! Good Isaiah. The kid is really going to be a great ball player in this league.
In Thomas's rookie season,
Oh yeah, hold on. I got something to talk to y'all about. A lot of y'all OGs be talking about how in the 80s and the 90s there was no friends and there was no, like, everybody hated each other. Look, I saw an article, Larry Bird saying that the 2 guys that started the whole buddy stuff was Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson. They used to hug and kiss and everything in the game. After the game, they would shake hands and all that stuff, be buddy. I don't know. Let me know something in the comment section.
Pistons improved tremendously, winning 18 more games than the year before. And when they played against Cleveland, McCluskey noticed that their center played harder than anyone and fought until the last second, even though it was a blowout game.
I was at a game in Cleveland, and I kept looking at this big guy, this Lambier, they were 20 down, and he still competed the entire game.
Technical foul has been called on Bill Lambier.
I said, God, I got to get this guy.
Impressed by this toughness and fighting spirit, Jack traded for that center at the very next trade deadline. And that's how Detroit got Bill Lambier.
All right.
Good with Johnson, and Lambier just fired.
Dang, come
Michael
on.
doesn't like it.
Soon, Thomas and Lambier became the heart and soul of the Pistons, and both of them made the All-Star team in 1983, their first full season together. However, Detroit missed the playoffs for the 6th consecutive year, after which McCluskey fired Scottie Robinson and appointed the legendary Chuck Daly as the new Pistons head coach.
As Bill Dreyfus said, the basketball is in your hands.
In 1984, Daly's first season, Detroit had the #1 offense in the NBA and the best attendance in the league with 16,000 fans on average. It was a complete 180 from just 3 years before. But most importantly, the Pistons had a winning season and made the playoffs.
New Jersey, and the Pistons celebrate at the Meadowlands. 1, 2, 3.
However, in the first round, Detroit got torpedoed by Bernard King, who averaged 42 points in 5 games, which was only the 4th time in NBA history that a player averaged 40-plus points in a playoff series.
So you guys like especially the Pistons, I think they did one of the greatest defensive teams. Bernard King averaged 42 points against y'all. Don't even get me started with Michael Jordan. I'm not even going to start with Michael Jordan. Bernard King averaged 42 points against y'all. And I'm not saying that Bernard King was a scrub or nothing, but he averaged 42 against y'all, and y'all supposed to be a defensive team, a defensive-minded team.
In 1985, the Pistons went one step further, finally winning their first playoff series after 9 years. But they would get immediately put down by the Celtics, who were in the prime of their dynasty.
Every time Bird touched the ball, we were scared. My mother-in-law nicknamed his jump shot Silent Death.
And then, in the 1985 offseason, Trader Jack drafted shooting guard Joe Dumars with the 18th pick.
The Detroit Pistons select Joe Dumars.
And 1 day later, he traded for
I'm gonna give y'all the benefit of the doubt because y'all wasn't completely developed yet. Y'all wasn't at y'all peak yet.
Mahorn, a master screen setter and one of the toughest players in the NBA.
Oh my God.
He's
got some screen. He's flat on the
He's out. He's
I'll
out
be so
cold.
pumped up that I guess that my intensity level will be
Hey.
so high that I want to kill him, and I just want to keep going and keep killing him.
But instead of the expected breakthrough, the 1986 season brought disappointment and a loss in the first round of the playoffs by the Atlanta Hawks. However, while most franchises would make drastic changes in personnel or fire the coach, Jack McCluskey had faith in Daly and the core of his team,
Chuck Daly, one of the greatest coaches of all time. Mad respect for him.
that they only needed a bit more help. And then, Jack brilliantly drafted 2 extremely important pieces for the Pistons, John Salley and Dennis Rodman. Rodman was 25 years old, had a troubled past, and was working as an airport janitor just a few years before he became an NBA player. But the Pistons believed in him because of the unbelievable energy he played with, something that perfectly suited the hard-nosed, fighting spirit of Thomas, Mahorn, and Lambier. Then McCluskey also traded for Adrian Dantley, a former 2-time scoring champion, and the Pistons finally became a true contender. Detroit steamrolled through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, securing a clash with their nemesis, the Boston Celtics. After 4 games, the series was tied, and in Game 5, it looked like the Pistons would win as they held a 1-point lead with 5 seconds left.
Baseline. Nobody home. Rodman the block. Out of bounds. He's got it to Quick Buckner with 5 seconds to go.
Now
Oh, this is the famous play. Oh, this is the famous play.
it's over. We're celebrating. You know, we won. We won.
Detroit also had the possession, and all they had to do was keep the ball when Isaiah made the costliest turnover of his career.
I look over and I see the official holding the basketball. I run over and I panic.
Thomas wants to get it in quickly. Does to Lambier. Stolen by Bird on the cut to DJ. Yes!
Man.
Yes, and a foul!
Oh, and this was back when they went to 3 games instead of 4. Like it was a 5-game series instead of a 7-game series in the first round.
Mistake by Detroit. They should have called timeout.
Bird comes out of nowhere. I mean, it was like a streak of lightning.
1 second left. Bird steals it and gets it to Johnson at the buzzer. What a play by Larry.
In Game 6, the Celtics played without the suspended Robert Parrish. because he was tired of Lambier and threw a punch.
He can't get it to fall, and Parrish takes Lambier to the ground with a right forearm.
Despite the punch bringing smiles to the Boston crowd, the Celtics missed Parrish badly, and Detroit would win Game 6 to extend the series. And then, in the deciding Game 7, Bird pushed the Celtics.
Oh, I thought they ran 5 instead of 7. Oh, I guess I was wrong.
To another close victory and another finals appearance, despite Detroit averaging 4 more points than Boston in that series. But because they were so close, the Pistons entered the 1988 season hungrier and more dangerous than ever.
Oh, I think I got this whole thing wrong. Was this the Eastern Conference Finals, or was this? This had to be the Eastern Conference Finals then. Dang, that's my bad. My bad.
Direction, the Pistons adopted a philosophy of 94 feet defense. The idea was that the team would defend everywhere on the court, making it difficult for opponents to set up their offense. Up until that time, most NBA teams ran back on defense and allowed the offensive team to cross half court unbothered. It was basically a gentleman's agreement, but the Pistons didn't care. Their whole strategy was to pressure, bump, and agitate.
Oh, if they started the 94 defense, I'm all for that. If we need to pick him up 94 feet, don't let him breathe. Do not let him breathe. We need to do that. That's what we need to do. And only a few. I've only seen a few legends actually pick somebody up 94 feet. I've seen Michael Jordan pick somebody up 94 feet. I've seen Kobe pick somebody up 94 feet. I've seen the Detroit Pistons pick up 94 feet, but I didn't know that they were the ones that started it.
Any other team ever had. As a result, they soon became the most disliked team in the NBA.
Not only did we want to dominate you physically, but we wanted to crush you mentally. We wanted the fans to feel defeat.
The story of this game, the Detroit defense. Yeah, defense did it tonight.
We wanted them to be afraid of us because we were getting ready to destroy their team.
While Detroit didn't lead the NBA in technicals and was actually ranked 15th out of 23 teams in total fouls, meaning that they fouled less than average, the Pistons probably led the league in hip checks, forearms to the ribs, cheap shots to the groin, shoving players midair, and fouls after the whistle. But the main reason why the Pistons were considered dirty was because of Bill Lambier, who continually put his feet in the player's landing area after a jump shot.
Don't get me started with Bill Lambier. I hate this guy. I hate this guy. And it's not even because of MJ. Like, I hate this guy.
To injure the opponent.
To me, I stepped on his foot, but I stepped on high and twisted my ankle.
Which made him arguably the most hated player in NBA history. However, the Pistons weren't bothered by what others were saying because their plan was working. Detroit won a franchise record 54 games, and they averaged 25,000 people in the stands, which again led the NBA. And thanks to 94 feet pressure and more minutes for Rodman, they had the second best defense in the NBA. And after Detroit beat the Bullets and then gave Jordan his first playoff whooping in the second round, it was time for another showdown with Boston. The Celtics made the finals 4 years in a row at that point, and despite their core getting older, they were still the favorites against Detroit.
Lord.
So, before the games in Boston, knowing how much they hated him, Lambier would be the first Piston to go out on the floor. He'd walk up to the leprechaun logo on the center, spit on it, and smear his spit with his sneakers, which brought the arena to the brink of madness. But this time, the Celtics could do nothing to punish those provocations, as the Pistons finally managed to beat Boston in 6 games.
The Pistons are on their way to the NBA Finals.
In their first NBA Finals, Detroit played the Lakers, another 80s dynasty, led by 2 legendary superstars. But again, against the Vegas odds, the Pistons were leading 3-2. But then, a disaster. Isaiah Thomas stepped on Michael Cooper's foot and severely sprained his ankle. It looked like his season was over.
Isaiah Thomas is hurt, and I couldn't tell what happened.
This is another legendary moment. This is why I put Isaiah Thomas pretty high on that point guard list.
Started to get up, he got up and then went down on the floor.
Isaiah, take it over, baby.
And then, despite being unable to stand on one leg, Thomas produced one of the craziest performances in NBA history.
He shuts his eyes, locks into whatever zone he got into, and said, okay, I can do this.
And then something happened that I can't even describe.
Thomas with a looper scores. Yep, and he's limping.
Like some one-legged bunny, Isaiah miraculously kept playing, hopping on one leg. And not only did he play, he dominated. Thomas scored 25 points in the third quarter alone and finished the game with 43 points and 8 assists. He kept the Pistons afloat the entire game. And with half a minute to go, Detroit was up by 1. The Lakers decided to go with the safest bet and give the last shot to Kareem to try to win the game with his trademark skyhook. But as Kareem was attempting the shot, the refs called the foul on Bill Laimbeer.
And I honestly think that was never a foul. That was not a foul. As much as I hate the Pistons, that was not a foul.
Barely touched Abdul-Jabbar.
I mean, it wasn't even a foul. I mean, it's not even close to being a foul.
Even though he didn't push Kareem that time, he got the call because he had pushed 2,000 guys before.
To make things worse, Kareem also traveled before the act of shooting. But there were no coaches' challenges in the 80s, and Jabbar was sent to the line. Of course, Kareem made both free throws, and the Lakers had the lead. After Dumars missed the layup on the other end, Los Angeles survived and forced a Game 7. In the deciding Game 7, the Pistons again had a chance to win, but Rodman stupidly ruined a fast break in the final minute that would cut the Lakers' lead to 1, and the Pistons ended up losing the championship once again. For years, Detroit was saying they were robbed of a championship because of that phantom foul on Kareem. But the truth is that wrong calls always happen. They had their chance to win the title in the next possession, but they missed it, and they shouldn't blame their loss on the refs. After the NBA Finals, the NBA video department issued a VHS cassette with highlights for each team, like they did every year back then, and someone in the NBA named the 1988 Pistons videotape The Bad Boys. When Isaiah Thomas heard what the NBA had titled the team video and was asked about it, he wasn't offended. Isaiah just gave the reporters his trademark smirk and said,
"We the bad boys."
Soon enough, the whole team embraced this nickname because now they had an excuse for their brand of basketball, and they did everything they could to live up to their name. Even the franchise started selling bad boy merchandise. And if you thought the Pistons were dirty and physical before 1988, they were even worse in 1989. But again, this style of basketball worked wonders for the Pistons, who won a franchise record 63 games in the regular season and were eager to kick everybody's butt in the playoffs. First, they swept the Celtics and the Bucks in the first 2 rounds, and then came Michael Jordan and his Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals. Because Jordan was by far the best player in the NBA, Chuck Daly knew that if they wanted to win, they had to put all their effort into stopping MJ. So Daly invented the Jordan Rules, a set of guidelines on how to guard Michael and stop him any way they could, legally or illegally. If Michael was at the point, we forced him left and doubled him. If he was on the left wing, we immediately went to a double team from the top. And if he was in the paint, we doubled with a big guy. The other rule was, anytime he went by you, you had to nail him. We didn't want to be dirty. I know some people thought we were, but we had to make contact and be very physical. Chuck Daly.
And if he was in the air,
Dennis Rodman had eloquently put it, if you can't beat him, beat him. By the end of the series, Jordan had more bruises than ever and couldn't match the Pistons' cumulative aggressiveness. Detroit won the series in 6 games and secured another finals clash with the Lakers. And in the finals, Lady Luck shined for Detroit. After Byron Scott got injured in Game 1, the Lakers also lost Magic Johnson in Game 3. And with Kareem being 41 years old, the Lakers didn't stand a chance. The Pistons swept them in the finals and, for the first time ever, became the NBA champion.
The 1989 finals.
Okay, so do we put an asterisk over this team because 2 of the players got injured? Do we do that? Because people put an asterisk on Jordan's first championship because I think 2 players from the Lakers were injured too, and I say, there was no comp there. Do we put it on this one too, or like I don't know.
History. Hail the new champions, the Detroit Pistons.
But I will say this, man. As far as the Jordan rules and everything, like just watching the tape, like just the tape, it's just like, man, they beat him up. They really did beat him up for real. He still averaged 40 though, but y'all beat him up for sure.
We beat him.
Everybody calls us the bad boys. I call ourselves world champions.
In 1990, due to the expansion draft, the Pistons couldn't keep Rick Mahorn. But that only meant more minutes for Rodman, who won his first Defensive Player of the Year award. The Pistons again topped the Eastern Conference with 59 wins. And in the playoffs, they once again gave Jordan a beating to reach their third consecutive NBA Finals. This time they played the Blazers, and almost every game in the Finals was close. But because of their experience and tenacity, the Pistons edged out the Blazers in the clutch, winning the championship in 5 games.
Yo, can't touch this.
The almost unchanged team entered the 1991 season with the sole aim of winning the third consecutive title. Just 50 wins in the regular season brought them a slightly more difficult path in the playoffs. But going through the Hawks and the Celtics, the Pistons reached their third consecutive matchup against the Bulls. But this time, Jordan and the Bulls were ready for the Pistons' aggression and cheap fouls. They were younger, hungrier, and better, sweeping Detroit 4-0 and announcing the start of their dynasty. Before the final game was over, Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons left the bench and walked past the Bulls in silence, not shaking the winner's hand.
And that is the, that is the softest thing that you could do. In this, in real basketball, where y'all was real physical and everything, that is one of the softest moves that I've ever seen in NBA history. Y'all got beat, so for sportsmanship, we're just going to walk off. Just going to walk off. Okay.
Great champions usually do the right thing.
These guys conducted themselves like street yard bullies.
Their walk-off was considered gangster in the state of Michigan, but was universally hated everywhere else. It was also symbolic because it was
That was gangster? I would see if that would be gangster if you swept the Bulls and then walked off. That would be gangster. But y'all got swept and y'all lost and then y'all walked off.
beginning of the end of the Bad Boys.
You're up on top. Eventually, you're going to go down. But they were great soldiers.
In 1992, the Pistons lost in the first round, and in 93, they didn't even make the playoffs. Rodman left the team after that season, and in 1994, Isaiah suffered a career-ending Achilles injury, retiring together with Bill Laimbeer. And just like that, the Bad Boys era was over.
This was the Bad Boys. There can only be one Bad Boy basketball team, and this was it, and there'll never be another one.
The Pistons had enough talent to win without any tricks or dirty antics, but they didn't want that, and that's what's so great about them, because every hero needs a villain, and no one in NBA history played that role better than the Bad Boys.
Like I said, Isaiah Thomas is most definitely one of the greatest point guards of all time. He needs to get his flowers a little bit more, because they beat Magic Johnson and Kareem. They beat the Bulls, and they beat Larry Bird. I mean, They beat one of the greatest players of all time. 3 of the greatest players of all time. Like, come on now. Like, Isaiah Thomas should get more flowers because he was the leader of that team. He was the guy on that team. So, you know what I'm saying? That one Pistons was not that bad of a team. They just was very short-lived, though. You guys had back-to-back championships, and then after that, you got swept by the Bulls. Y'all were done. I mean, what else is there to really say about that, man? But I don't know, man. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I want to hear what you guys got to say in the comment section. But please make sure you like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed and if you're new. And until next time, man, I'm going to catch you.